You ready? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Paramahansa, Bhadavajikacharya Ashtotara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Bhadavajikacharya Ashtotara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Can you get those? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 4th day of March, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 7, What Prahlāda Learned in the Womb. Text number 2. Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitari Prastite Asmakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Param Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitadi Prashtite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Padam Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitadi Prashtite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Padam Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitadi Prashtite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Padam Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitade Prastite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Padam Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati. Go ahead, Boo. Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitadi Prastite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Padam Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati. Dhammaraj. Shri Prahlāda Vacha Prastite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodhyamam Padam Chakrur Vibudha Dhanavan Prati. Shri Prahlāda Vacha Pitadi Prastite Smakam Tapase Mandarachalam Yudhodimam padam chakru. Vibhadhadhanavanpati. Anyone else? Sri Prahlāda vacha. Pitade pastite smakam. Tapase mandarachalam. Yudhodimam padam chakru. Vibhadhadhanavanpati. Do you chant? No, I guess not. Anyone online?
Sri Prahlāda vacha.
Sri Prahlāda vacha.
Pitare prasthite smakam.
Pitade prastite smakam.
Tapase mandarachalam.
Tapase mandarachalam.
Vidyam param chakru.
Yudhodimam padam chakru.
Vibhadhanavan prati.
Vibhadhadhanavanpati. Synonyms. Sri Prahlāda uvacha. Prahlāda Mahārāja said, Pitari, when the demon father Hiranyakashipu, prastite, left for asmakam, our, tapase, to execute austerities, mandarachalam, the hill known as Mandarachala, Yuddha Udyamam, exertion of warfare, param, very great, chakruhu, executed, vibhadhaha, the demigods, headed by King Indra, danavan, the demons, pati, toward. Second translation. Prahlāda Mahārāja said to his friends, to his classmates, when our father Hiranyakashipu went to Mandarachala mountain to execute severe austerities, in his absence the demigods, headed by King Indra, made a severe attempt to subdue all the demons in warfare. So there's a bunch of verses without purports. I'll just read the Sanskrit and English. Pipilakar ahir iba dishya loko patapanaha papena papo bakshiti vadanto vasavadayaha. Alas, as a serpent is eaten by small ants, so the troublesome Hiranyakashipu, who always inflicted miseries upon all types of people, has now been defeated by the reactions of his own sinful activities. That's close quote. He's quoting Indra. Saying this, the demigods, headed by King Indra, arranged to fight the demons. Tesham adibalodyogam nishamyasodayutapa vadyamana sudayarbita dudruvu sarvatodisham kalattaputta grihan pasuparichadan naivekshamanas tvarita sarve prana paripsavaha. When the great leaders of the demons, who were being killed one after another, saw the unprecedented exertion of the demigods in fighting, they began to flee, scattering themselves in all directions. Simply to protect their lives, they hastily fled from their homes, wives, children, animals, and household paraphernalia. Paying no heed to all these, the demons simply fled. Vyalumpan Raja Shibiram Amara Jayakanshinaha Indras tu Raja Mahishim Mataram Mamaga Chagwahit. The victorious demigods plundered the palace of Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, and destroyed everything within it. Then Indra, the king of heaven, arrested my mother, the queen. Niyamanam bayod vignam udatim kurarimiva yadvichayagatas tatra devarshir dadrishe pati. As she was being led away, crying in fear like a kurari captured, a kurari is a bird, captured by a vulture, the great sage Nārada, who at that time had no engagement, appeared on the scene and saw her in that condition. Prahanayanam sudapate netamar hasyanagasam muncha muncha mahabhaga satim pada parigraham. Nārada Muni said, O Indra, king of the demigods, this woman is certainly sinless. You should not drag her off in this merciless way. O greatly fortunate one, this chaste woman is the wife of another. You must immediately release her. Shri Indra's Uvacha. Aste syajatade viryam avishahyam suradvishaha asyatam yavat prasavam mokshe ta padavim gataha. King Indra said, in the womb of this woman, the wife of the demon Hiranyakashipu, is the seed of that great demon. Therefore, let her remain in our custody until her child is delivered, and then we shall release her. Purport. Indra, the king of heaven, decided to arrest Prahlāda Mahārāja's mother because he thought that another demon, another Hiranyakashipu, was within her womb. The best course, he thought, was to kill the child when the child was born, and then the woman would be released. So I'm going to read a few more with sans Sanskrit. I never thought of that, sans Sanskrit. Nārada Muni replied, the child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. Indeed, he is a great devotee, a powerful servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. Purport. There have been many instances in which demons or non-devotees have attempted to kill a devotee, but they have never been able to destroy a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord promises in the Bhagavad Gita 9:31, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. This is a declaration by the Supreme Personality of Godhead that his devotee cannot be killed by demons. Prahlāda Mahārāja is the vivid example of the truth of this promise. Nārada Muni told the King of Heaven, it would be impossible for you to kill the child even though you are demigods, and certainly it would be impossible for others. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is all by way of Prahlāda Mahārāja explaining to his classmates how he learned the science of Bhakti when he was just born amongst the demons. They couldn't understand how he ever heard anything from Nārada Muni. It was a great puzzle. So he's explaining it all now. And what the account continues is that Nārada Muni explained to the demigods, as we just heard, that there's not another demon in the womb, but there's a great devotee. And you won't be able to kill him, and instead you'll incur great sin by, harming this woman and killing an innocent person. So what happens is that the demigods defer to Nārada Muni, the Devarshi, the rishi of the demigods, great devotee, and Nārada Muni takes Kayadhu, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, to his ashram, and he begins instructing her in devotional service. And of course, Prahlāda Mahārāja is hearing within the womb. He's hearing. It's just one of those transcendental, amazing things that he didn't need to be trained up in the language. He already knew from previous birth. He can understand Sanskrit. And so he was listening ardently and to the words of the practically purest of the pure devotees. And so he was completely trained in devotional service even before he emerged from the womb. And this is the secret how, that Hiranyakashipu was puzzled and Chandranamarka couldn't figure it out, and now the boys can figure out, where did Prahlāda get all this about devotional service? So this is the mystery is solved here. But what the lesson here is that part of the lesson is the strength of the devotees when they're completely pure and under the protection of Krishna, as Prabhupada quotes in the purport, and Krishna famously says in the Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Now, of course, there's a little twist to that, in that he says to Kaunteya's Arjun, you declare it, that my devotees will never. Well, why didn't Krishna just declare it? Because Krishna sometimes, in his pastimes, he may break his promise or say things that aren't true. He can do that without any reaction, obviously. But if his devotee says it promises it, then he feels duty-bound to fulfill that promise. Just as we have the experience in the same pastime with Hiranyakashipu performing his severe austerities, which we already heard about previously. And they were just unheard of. He stays holding his hands up for thousands of years. He gets covered up by an anthill that eats all his flesh, but he's so powerful, he's keeping the life air circulating within his bones. And meanwhile, he's emanating this heat that's burning the demigods, and they go to Brahma and say, please do something. And so Brahma goes down, and he sprinkles some water from his kamandalu. It's a very, sacred water, powerful water. And that revives Hiranyakashipu. He comes out with this powerful, youthful body, practically invincible body, So now it's interesting, when you read those prayers, which he already did, he kind of conflates Brahma with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's hoping that he's got God here himself, and that he can get any benediction he wants, primarily immortality. But when he asks for it, as Prabhupada relates, it's not actually in the text of the Bhagavatam anyway, Brahma says, well, I don't have immortality, I can't give you that. So then there's that whole thing, well, Hiranyakashipu is, clever by one half, if we say, he tries to outwit Brahma and get it through the back door. So he says, well, okay, can I just not be killed by any of the beings you created? No, sure, no problem. Can't be killed in the day or the night? You got it. Can't be killed inside or outside? It's okay. You can't be killed on the land, in the air, or in the water? No problem. Can't be killed by any weapon? You got it. He said, I'm good. How can I die? I'm invincible. And then, so he departed. And Brahma went back to his abode. And meanwhile, Hiranyakashipu, then took over the universe completely. And but his wife was in Nārada's ashram. Then she returned, and Prahlāda took birth on schedule. Hiranyakashipu didn't suspect any problem. But Prahlāda is a great devotee in the womb. And when he comes out, we've heard, that his father asked him. They didn't have report cards, but they asked the child, what did you learn today? What's the best thing you learned? So the first answer is, Tat sadhu manye sudavarya dehinam sada samudvignadiyam sadgrahat hitvatmapatam griyamandakupam vanam gatoya dhadamashriyeta. Now there's several very significant parts of this verse. One of them that comes last is that he's completely unafraid. He's completely unafraid to tell his father that you should leave your materialistic household life, best of the demons. He calls him the best of the demons. Not as Prabhupada points out in the lecture, he doesn't call him father. He says Sudavarya, Sudavarya. And first he analyzes, he says, Prabhupada when he discusses this verse in the lecture, he says, best for whom? What is best for whom? For dehinams, for the conditioned souls, for the embodied souls, another for all of us. Asudabhaya dehinam, who are always disturbed, whose consciousness is always disturbed. Sada samudvigna diyam. Samudvigna means totally disturbed in anxiety. Even if everything is okay, but they heard that it's not, in the future it might not be okay. Like, we're sitting here, and then up north is this incredible blizzard that took place, dumping 10 feet of snow with 190 miles per hour winds. I never heard of such a thing. Yes, a gusts of 190 mile per hour winds. Well, okay, thank God we're down here in San Diego, but what about the earthquakes? What about the tsunami that may come? We had crazy weather. In other words, there's always anxiety on the material plane, even if things are temporarily okay. What to speak of if you're under threat? There's some war coming across the border, some army, or threefold miseries, whatever. So therefore, sada samudvigna. Udvigna means disturbance of intelligence, diyam, anxiety, fear. And some means total. Because asadgrahat. Because we've taken shelter of the temporary things, you see? In other words, the list, the material body, makes you have a strong material body, but you have plenty of health insurance, so that's your first line of defense. Then I've got my family, I've got my descendants, and of course the bank account, that's important, by which I can buy all kinds of insurance. Insurance just plays on fear, right? Anxiety. The whole thing about insurance is, all right, I'm okay now, but what happens if this comes? So that when they advertise, they say, there's so many dangers out there. That's insurance. Insurance is the most ignorant thing. There's no insurance. Birth, old age, disease, and death. It's going to happen. So, asatgrahat, we've taken shelter of the impermanent. And naturally, we're permanent, we're eternal, but we're sitting in these bodies which are temporary. And they're very fragile machines. And eventually something will happen. We'll get sick, we'll get old, some accident, some disease. It's going to happen. So all of our attempts to be secure are simply what they call a fool's errand. You can't be secure in this world, on this plane. The only security is at the lotus feet of Krishna, eternal, because we ourselves are eternal. And therefore, we need an eternal shelter, and that's Krishna, and that's the spiritual world. Later on, when Prahlāda offers his prayers, which are so wonderful for philosophy and everything, the mood, the Sankirtan is nicely described there, the mood of the devotee, the preacher. But he has this one verse that always struck me as very cogent, and something that is just filled with these kind of understandings. He's praying to Nrsingadeva, of course. And he says, Yasmat priya priya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina sakadayona shadayamana dukaushadam tatapi dukkam atadiyaham bhuman brahmami vadame tavadasya yogam. So there's a whole lesson in there, in that one verse. So he's describing the material condition. Yasmat is the Sanskrit is so concise. Yasmat priya priya yoga sayoga janma shokagnina. So he started at the end. Shokagnina means the fire of lamentation. Fire of lamentation. And then he says, describing in all different species of life that I've inhabited, I've been burning in this fire of lamentation, which is caused by two inevitable things in the material world. Yasmat priya. Yasmat means from this, what he's going to describe. Priya means those things which are dear to us. Our bodies, our health, family members, money, so many things you develop attachments on the material plane. That's what he's talking about. Priya, then what happens with that? Viyoga. They're ripped away from us, taken away, inevitably. Health, the pandemic caused so much. We had an influx of devotees come. Remember, people who were interested in joining, not all of them stayed. But suddenly, you couldn't get away from it. It was in the atmosphere. That death is there. I could be breathing in, some virus that's going to choke my, horrible death. People were aware of it all over the world, right here in San Diego, So we had influx come. This is when Dvijamani came. This is when Govardhan came. They were a few who actually stayed. But still, it suddenly people woke up. I don't have any shelter from this. There's no, certainty or anything. So those who were a little intelligent, they started chanting Hare Krishna. So that's the shelter, and that's the end. That's what Prahlāda says at the end of the verse. So that's one source of misery: is the things that you value so much are taken away, either immediately or slowly. Then the other one is just the opposite. Yasmat priya apriya sayoga are forced upon you. The things that are anything but dear, that are abominable, frightening, are forced upon you. Like the rainstorm, I mean, we had it here, it wasn't, but in some parts of the country, it's just flooding in parts of the state, parts of the San Diego County, And you hear about that, right? You can see it on your screen, the internet. Wow, this is pretty close to me. It's flood. So that's all cause of disturbance, right? So, and then he says, not only in human life, but in all life. This is happening. I've been burning in this. So, now in human life, we have dukaushadam. Dukaushadam means a remedy for the dukkha. Just like, the insurance and this and that. So many guns, people think they're safe. Just the opposite in America. It's insane. So there's dukaushadam. But then he says very wisely, tadapi dukkam. Those aushadis for the dukkha cause more dukkha. We'll be safe, no problem. Now we got nuclear bombs. Yeah, right. Ready to go off, More anxiety. So dukaushadam tadapi dukkam, and then it's very concise, atadiyaham. The root of the whole thing is that I'm thinking I'm something I'm not. I'm thinking that I'm this temporary body. That basic fallacy that Krishna addresses at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. So then what's the solution? Fourth line, Bhuman, oh great Lord, Bhuman Brahmami Vadame, this soul is wandering in the material world. Vada Dasya Yoga, please instruct him in your Dasya Yoga, your Bhakti Yoga. He's giving us an example. Prahlāda is already, transcendental. But this is a verse for us. So many of them are. So this is the teachings that he's giving here. He's priming his students to hear now. He's telling the backstory of how he began. But the most amazing part of it all is that it's happening at all. That here he is, this fragile little, it looks like it, the fragile little 5-year-old boy. He's already shown that he's fearless before his father, right? His father is already, this is after he's tried to kill him, right, and send him out. And he was, not only wasn't he killed or injured, but he wasn't disturbed even. He was so much absorbed. He's the acharya, he's the exemplar for meditating on Krishna, for being absorbed in thinking of Krishna, of those 9 processes is one. So he was peaceful, and that just freaked his father out even more. He couldn't even scare him or disturb him. So that's Prahlāda's strength. You see, it comes from his absolute absorption in Krishna consciousness, and that's a hallmark of all the great devotees. And all the way down, our great Acharya Srila Prabhupada, we just heard about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I don't think we recounted how there was this plot to assassinate him in Vrindavan. He was going on Vrindavan Parikrama, and there were so many dacoits, and I think this was the Smarta Brahmins, the caste Brahmins, who were so upset with him because he was challenging them at every instance. Do you want to get a little seat? We have so many cushions. You're okay? Okay. So he wasn't. He didn't run. Even if he heard about it. And the policemen, they tried to bribe the cop, the head cop, so he wouldn't do anything. So that they had, that they could assassinate him, and there wouldn't be an investigation. But instead, that top cop, he came to Bhaktisiddhanta and warned him. He said, "Yes, we take bribes and this and that, but not for a great sadhu like you. And I wouldn't think of it. So Bhaktisiddhanta faced those things. So did Prabhupada. I like to give the example. Most of you have heard it already, but there are several examples. One is the threats in 1970 in the Rath Yatra in L.A. It was the time of the Black Power and all of that, Black Panthers, and they claimed that Golden Gate Park is their territory. They said, no, you can't have this march here, this parade, the Jagannath Rath Yatra. And they told Prabhupada, they said, we don't think you should go because we have this threat. I said, no, I'm going, no way, So there was a little rumble. We had our own, Kshatriyas, and they had those long sticks to prevent people from jumping under the wheels. I don't know if that's a way that you can commit suicide and go back to Godhead. That happens in Jagannath Puri sometimes. So just to prevent that, if there was any, thing, we had so they had these sticks and they were using them. So there was this rumble. And meanwhile, Prabhupada wanted to go. Okay, so they drove him in, but they took a long route, So that finally Prabhupada joined the procession in the middle after they'd already beaten back the threat, and they were in the middle of the parade, and it stopped, and Prabhupada came on, and then I didn't know there was a movie of this. I remember seeing a black and white of Prabhupada dancing, and everyone was surrounding him. You remember? Then I found that that had been filmed, and you can actually see that. He's so ecstatic. And it was just, there was no threat. But Prabhupada was fearless. Then later on in India, when he went to, he was doing these pandals all over, and I think it was the first Calcutta pandal. And there's Bengal, and there's these Naxalites. Communism was very strong, because Russia's right there, and they had made a lot of propaganda, and they got some adherents. So they didn't want this pandal to go on, so they sent a letter or a note to Prabhupada: fly or die, fly or die. Fly means leave or die or get, So Prabhupada said, we're not going anywhere, we're not flying and we're not dying. So they came, Prabhupada's in the tent in the pandal, and they came, and they're looking really good. So Prabhupada said, okay, give him some nice seats, so he invited him in again. Then Prabhupada chanted the Govinda prayers beautifully, tambura. Someone was playing him tambura, And that kind of cooled him out. Then he invited him for prasadam, and he spoke to them and said, we're actually in favor of Krishna conscious communism, transcendental communism. And he explained how this principle of Everyone, what does it say? Everyone can serve the state according to his ability and get what he wants. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. You know? And that's kind of what happens in the temple. I mean, when you have a Varnashram, then everyone is serving, and everyone's provided with what they need. No, extravagance. And people are serving, as best they can according to their ability. That's Varnashram. So they were impressed with that. So they went off without any danger. But Prabhupada faced the danger. Just getting on that boat was tremendously heroic. And it was dangerous, and Prabhupada almost died from a heart attack, And anyway, so that's the nature of these great preachers, is that they're fearless. The fearlessness is there. Prabhupada was once asked, so what do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna? What's the experience? Complete fearlessness. That was one of the, really, So that's because you feel protected with Krishna's hands. Now, we shouldn't misunderstand, because there have been instances, I mean, of course, devotees pass away. I remember somehow or other, many of the times they asked me to chant. So I had experience just locally here of seeing devotees leave. And of course, I wasn't alone. There were devotees around chanting. This is the most, Prabhupada did that. This is, he showed by example. To surround yourself with devotees chanting Hare Krishna, to help you remember Krishna, like that. And there's so many instances. There's this one I'll tell, because this is an amazing story. There was a lady here named Padmavati in the early days. I think Balaram may remember her. You remember? Yeah. Yeah, right. That's what I said. So she joined a little late, and she was like about 50 when she joined. And she had smoked, her whole life, and she already had COPD, which is, what is it called? I forget what it stands for. It's a disease, obstructive pulmonary disease. Chronic. Yeah, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And she gradually became worse, and she had to come to the temple. She would come to my classes in the evening, and she had to take an oxygen bottle, to breathe and all this and everything. So finally it came, this was in January of 2011, it was a little more than 13 years ago. And she called me up and she said, I'm going to it was a Kadashi, and she said, I'm going to the hospital. I said, what's the matter? I can't breathe. And so she went there, and she was thinking this could be it, So I went there with Rajendranandana Prabhu. He was in town. And she was lying there, on the hospital bed. She had contacted her children, which were scattered around America, and they all flew in. She had one daughter and a couple of sons, I think, in their mid-30s, like that. And so we were chanting Hare Krishna, and it's almost like a disappearance tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It's like Prabhupada's original tune. And she was hearing, hearing. And then her daughter came in and said, okay, because she was hooked up, and she said, okay, we're going to let her go now. I said, okay, well, it's really auspicious if we can keep chanting. He said, no, this is a family thing. I said, what can we do? So we went just 2 doors down to a waiting room. So waiting there, 15 minutes later, chanting Hare Krishna. And one of the sons comes in and he says, you better come back inside. She's not leaving. Somehow she's holding on because she wants to hear Hare Krishna. She knows him. So we go back in, we start chanting Hare Krishna, and suddenly her whole demeanor changes. There's a little smile, she's relaxed, and 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, she departed, like that. And we had, recent departures, Rajendranandana Prabhu and Shamali, and they were both very favorable. In Shamali's case, I think her father was there. Her father was Yamunapati. And she was in Alachua. She'd grown up in the movement, Gaur. She'd grown up right here. When I first, right here. She learned to play the flute at one point. She was very, dear to everybody here. And then she went to UK. I think she went to college there for a while. But then she went on the Polish tour with Indrajumna Swami, and she was so inspired that she took initiation. She married one of our alumni here, Bhishma Dev,
And they were living in Alatra. When I used to go twice a year to visit my friend Indra there, I would see them. They would invite me for lunch. I have some pictures and everything. Everything was fine. But then cancer struck, and it was this. We heard it from here. I called up a few times and I chanted some verses for them like that. But Yamuna said, then we had a wonderful ceremony afterward, and Yamuna related how she was completely at peace when there's still a website, I think. She had friends all over the movement. She was completely peaceful when she left, and he described it like it's like the Vaikuntha airplane came and she just got on and left. There was no tears, there was no anxiety, there was no like anything like that. That's success. I mean, that's the final exam. To be, thinking of Krishna, to be with devotees, reminding you of Krishna, and to just let it go. I mean, we know it's going to happen, right? That's that. So Prahlāda is at that point now. He's completely fearless, because he's at Krishna's lotus feet without any doubt. And so that's why at the end of this verse he says, "My dear Lord, please instruct me in your bhakti yoga." That's the only solution to any of the problems of life, and that truth is still there for all of us. And and you can see how urgent it is to spread this knowledge, because the earth is like burning. It's just like we have this prediction that there's going to be a 10,000 year period during this Kali Yuga, in which Lord Chaitanya's movement will be propagated and reign, and it'll be Kali Yuga's evils will be suspended at that point. Of course, we believe that's in the Shastra, and Lord Chaitanya gave that. But the way it looks now is like, I mean, there's such a amount of anxiety in young people that I used to share some of that because I was aware of the news and the Vietnam War and everything. But it wasn't like it is today. I think where the pandemic and the climate change and all of the wars going on, and it just seems that they don't have a future, that the elders just messed it up, and there's a tremendous amount of mental, distress and depression amongst young people. More than ever, it's increased, So, but those who seriously take the Krishna consciousness, even though this is going on, and of course the devotees who are most in the bullseye of that are the Ukrainian devotees, wonderful devotees, and they're still chanting, and some of them be able to go to other countries, But this is the only way to deal with these problems. Is the only practical way, is to transcend, to get beyond the bodily concept and beyond the bodily identification, and to hang on as tightly as possible to the lotus feet of your spiritual master and the lotus feet of Krishna and the chanting of the holy name. The chanting of the holy name. Because we always have to remember that this mantra is so powerful that just as soon as you chant it with a little attention, they have so much background, you're not a pure devotee or anything, but you're chanting with attention, you have faith, you're associating with Krishna. Abhinatvam nama namino, the verse ends. There's no separation between the name and the named. It's inconceivable. But this is why we're sitting here. What kind of yogic powers can we develop? I tried that a little bit, Just sitting for meditation, 15 minutes was like, oh wow, I made 15 minutes today. Come on, it's not going to work that way. But this mantra, if we take it seriously and we associate with the pure devotee, especially through his books, this is the key, is that association with the pure devotee, as Mahārāja is so nicely explaining. That's what is that? There's this wonderful verse that's twice in the Bhagavatam. Any verse that's repeated, just like Manmana Bhava Bhakto in the Bhagavad Gita, it's a really important verse. Tuliyama lavenapi naswargam napanabhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanam kamatashishaha. He's saying that things that are normally valued very, very highly, such as going to the heavenly planets or getting even liberation, cannot hold a candle or are insignificant when compared to even a moment's association with a Bhagavat Sangi. This is such a nice word. One who is already associating with Bhagavan. In other words, through his transcendental realization. pure devotee. Sangasya, association with an associate of the Lord, even just a few seconds, is way more important in your ultimate life. The history of your life, which could go on for thousands of years and millions of years, we've been in this world, than these other things. Going to heaven, which Krishna condemns in the Bhagavad Gita. What if you do get to heaven? Chine pude mati lokam vishanti. It's like you're accumulating these pious credits, right? You're accumulating certain points, in your credit card. Okay, then you go to the heavenly planets, and you enjoy, what is it? Tetam bhuktva swarga lokam vishalam. Vishalam is the devotee named Vishal. Remember, he was he's large. No one can forget Vishal. Actually, a wonderful devotee. He was a very wonderful book distributor for years. Very beloved. But he was large. So the idea is that you enjoy tremendously more on heaven than you can here. Tetam bhuktva svarga lokam. Svarga is heaven. Vishalam. But then chine punye, when the credit card is when all your credits, pious credits are due, martya lokam visham. He doesn't say you come back to earth. He says you come back to this world of death. Reminding you. Therefore, what's the point? Evam tahi dhammamanupapanna gatagatam. By following these three Vedas, where you find the Karma Kanda, the Rig, Sama, and Yajurveda, then even if you succeed, you're just going and coming. You're not making any progress toward going back to Godhead. Gadagatam kama labandi, trying to fulfill some material desire. So he's roundly condemned in several parts of the Bhagavad Gita. Is aspiring for heaven, but aspiring for going back to Godhead is encouraged at every step, you see. And it begins with this, taking shelter of the spiritual master and taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. That's the ultimate instruction. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyadi mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te patijane priyosi me. Sarvadharmam padachajya mami kangsharadam bhaja aham tvam savapapebhyo mokshiyasyami mashacha. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me and bow down low. You come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Give up all dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins will nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety be free. You ever notice the mudras? Mudras are very important. We practice them, we don't even call them that. You ever see someone, they come to the first time to the temple, they stand in the back. Right? I'm not, what can you show me? Look at Gauranatai, Everybody chant, come on. Radharani, it's a very important mudra. There's a name for it. Abhay Dan mudra. Abhay means fearlessness. Dan is a gift. You just say, just take shelter of Krishna, Radha Krishna, and your practice. You can be completely fearless. It's very important. The Radharani, sometimes she has another, she's got something, but you'll see many devotees like that. Many deities. So, that's the only place of fearlessness. That's why it's Abhay Charanaravinda, at the lotus feet of Krishna. That's Prabhupada's original name. That's the only real place of fearlessness. So Prahlāda Mahārāja's teachings and his whole life are very instructive, and we're right in the middle of it. And his teachings to his friends. I remember this going back a ways, back to 1979. I think I was in Philadelphia. No, it must have been early, 80. And the Gurukul had moved there from the Northwest, and it came and set up in Philadelphia. So there's young, girls and boys there. So, and I was known even then for the shloka slinger, So they said, would you like to teach some shlokas to these students? I said, okay, So after every class, I would spend maybe a half hour, after the morning program, I'd spend a half hour with them. And we were learning, things that I was studying, which are like verses by Rupa Goswami about Krishna's Leela. And this Leela Chanda is a summary of Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. So we learned Autan Nikamasankulitam Bakashakada Dastanashayanalam Kuchadasa Trishna Vidichitalo Rodana Chanchada Patikata Shakada Binodana. And this is one, he's describing how Krishna knocked over the cart. He just killed the Shakata Asura. There's a demon in there. So verses like that. And they loved it. you know. I mean, of course, we did the drill gradually, you know, and they learned it. And then eventually I had to go to New York. We stopped it. Then they wrote me these wonderful letters that I still have, you know, thanking me for that. And then years later, I was in LA, and one of the girls who had grown up, it was a girls' class, little girls, and she'd grown up and said, "Oh, Dravida, I'm still chanting those verses." You know, she was like 25 by then or something. You know, she had a job. She was working in LA. She came to the temple. So that's this transcendental sound, beginning with Hare Krishna mantra, of course, is a real shelter, and it dissipates so much confusion and fear and everything, you know. And because Krishna is from within the heart, He's giving us, you know, these things. What is that? Shinvatam sukata Krishna punnishavana kirtana riddindaksto yabadhani vidhanoti suritsata. This is right in the second chapter, first canto, the last 4 verses. Some of you may have seen this pamphlet that I don't know if we distribute it as much. It's called The Reservoir of Pleasure. Remember that? The main article in there is based on a lecture Prabhupada gave on this verse, Srinvatam Sakata Krishna. And what Sutta Goswami is explaining there to the sages is that once you are able to cultivate a desire to hear about Krishna, which comes through surrender to this pure devotee, you know, that's Shushusho Shuddhanasya. Then you have that key element of Krishna Katha Ruchi. Then, and you're hearing nicely, then Krishna in your heart, he says, "Oh, he says, now he's hearing about me." So from within, he's clearing away the abhadras, the inauspicious things, all the material desires, the fears, the anxieties, the false beliefs. All these things are being cleansed. And what's the result? He says, "Tadara dastamo bhava," gradually you become purified, and you become established in the mode of goodness. And all of the things of raja and tamas, you know, lust, anger, and greed, and all these things are swept away. And then you get established in pure goodness, and evam prasanna manaso, and your natural happiness, bliss, comes out. We should always remember that our natural state is to ananda, because we're part and parcel of Krishna, and He's, what's that famous verse? It's just a little phrase. It's a sutra. Anandamaya vyasat, is it? Anandamaya means filled with ananda. How do we know it? Abhyasat, by just meditating or seeing Krishna's activities. He's never morose. You know, of course there's some moods where he may be morose in separation from Radharani, but that's another thing, that's the highest bliss. The point is that he's always blissful. So you naturally become happy just in simple activities of Krishna consciousness. You don't need all this paraphernalia and money and all these things. You realize just a nice kirtan, you know. We have this beautiful festival of Ratha Yatra, isn't it? Now they're planning to our great relief, another flower festival. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen these flower petal festivals. I don't know if you're at one of them. It's an innovation the last few years. Just lots of flower petals. And the pujaris are on the altar throwing the petals practically, you know, up to their waist, practically in petals. Then they take those petals, put them in big baskets, and throw them out into the audience. The full audience here. And meanwhile, kirtan's going on, you know. And then the kids are picking them up and throwing them at the adults, you know. It's fantastic. But I mean, then you're asking, well, you know, okay, it's music, you know, there's dance, there's all of this stuff. But what's the actual cost of it is minimal. But it's just chanting and, you know, relishing the deities and the beauty. We had, it started, I think, when we had the 50th, was that the 50th anniversary of the installation. But now, you know, it's backed by popular demand, you know, so it'll be a regular thing. So that's the revelation Lord Chaitanya gave. You have this ocean of bliss in your heart, but you can't access it. You've lost touch with it. Now just give up all this effort to enjoy the senses in this way. You know, it's just self-defeating. It just causes misery. You see? Rather, you just contact Krishna by chanting His holy name and dancing. Doesn't matter who you are. The philosophy will be there. You know, just participate. By chanting and hearing, then you become eager to hear the philosophy. What is this all about? What did I just experience, right? This is how the movement started, and as the movement's going on. And Prabhupada has given, you know, such an ocean of wonderful literatures, you know. And so we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to be in touch with this philosophy, be interested in practicing it seriously. And we should try to continue and break through, because it's so conditioning and doubts and so many failings and things, so that we come to the point of steadiness in Krishna consciousness. And that this is the only solution for the problems of this world. Otherwise, you know, it's just you don't even want to think about it, because you got the demons, you know, demons running the countries and everything. It's, you know, we need Krishna's shelter and Krishna's power in counteracting it, you know. And Prahlāda is a wonderful example. And I'll end with this. I probably went way over time. Oh my God, I'm sorry. All right, so I should stop. Any questions, comments? I will give a poem. No, go ahead. Start with the question. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the inspirational lecture. This goes back to the beginning of your lecture. You're talking about Nārada Muni being in the ashram, and Prahlāda's mom went there. So I can't remember, why didn't Hiranyakashipu stop that from happening? Like, how did he allow Prahlāda's mom to go and spend time with?
He didn't know. The chronology was that he's, you know, practicing his austerities. He's still gone. The demigods take advantage of his absence to recapture the kingdom and everything, and he, you know, his kingdom. I think it's described. They broke his palace and everything, and they took everything out. Right, that's part of what the description. So the demigods are just taking advantage of Hiranyakashipu's absence. It's not that he allowed it, of course. And I guess he was a little curious where his wife was when he came out of his meditation. But by that time, I think, you know, the Prahlāda was already born, and or no, she came back and gave birth, and he didn't suspect anything. He didn't know anything about the instruction or anything like that, you know. And she was so disturbed, but she didn't remember, you know, this went in one ear and out the other, kind of, you know. She didn't really get. So I was thinking about this last night, how this would have been a nice, but unfortunately I didn't know it by heart. But this is one poem I wrote about Prabhupada, and I think I mentioned to you after. Okay, so the first verse, it's modeled after the Gurvashtika, so you can see. Okay. So here it's in English. There's no Sanskrit, and the first verse is appropriate to Bhaktisiddhanta's festival. Trapped within samsara's all-devouring blazing fire, we had no hope of rescue till your guru's strong desire inspired and empowered you to boldly cross the sea and teach the truths of bhakti so some souls would be set free. Oh, Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. And that's kind of the refrain line. So I go through it. Patiently you taught us how to chant the holy name, and how to dance and how to sing, and what was life's true aim. And thus you gave us Lord Chaitanya's teachings unalloyed, and saved us from the all-devouring Mayavadi void. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. And so then is Sri Vigrahara, you know. When Krishna Bhakti spread and you had centers here and there, you introduced the worship of the deities so fair. And soon throughout the world their lordships smiled upon your crew and nourished strong devotion to themselves and unto you. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. And then once you have the deities, then you have prasadam. Chaturvada, Sri Bhagavad Prasadam. Prasadam was your special weapon. No one could resist. Once the Sunday feast had started, no one could desist. Halva, sweet rice, crisp pakoras, sabjis, puris, rice. With these and other preps, you did our tongues and hearts entice. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Well, I went that far. I might as well go the rest of the way. The books you shower down upon the masses and on us taught Scripture's sacred essence, bhakti pure and nectarous. And while you wrote, you relished Sri Sri Radha Krishna's name and form and pastimes, qualities, and everlasting fame. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. While managing your ISKCON with the whole world as your stage, meeting, preaching, traveling like a person half your age, you served their lordship Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart, arranging for their pastimes in Vrindavan's secret part. The Kunjayuno Radhikali Sijai. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Sakshat Adidvena. The Guru is as good as God, you said, and some were shocked. But you had simply quoted scripture, you did not concoct. And sure enough, for those who worship you as they would God, the path of bhakti opens wide and joyfully is trod. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. If you bestow your mercy, then Shri Krishna gives his too. But if your mercy is lacking, then there's nothing we can do. So every day we should reflect upon your life sublime and vow to serve you always with our body, words, and mind. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. I pray that my small hymn, though lacking literary worth, presented to remind us of your pastimes on this earth, may find some favor both with you and with your devotees who hover around your lovely lotus feet like maddened bees. O Prabhupada, I pray that you bestow your mercy now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. So there it is. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Hare Bo. Sorry, I neglected the question period. This always happens. Lose track of time.